All right. Shalom. First and foremost, I want to begin by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak, Wadash. Double honors to the head apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the fellow laborers out there, and as always, you believers. See, I'm back once again through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, and as always, continuing in that spirit, being the spirit of prophecy, which pretty much sets the tone, if you will, in relation to the ascension and descension of the kings of the earth. And this is basically what you'll open up to, coming into that form of intellect, if you will, elevates us. It basically sets us apart and rises us over the reasoning of men and mere mortals, in which I say that respectfully, meaning those who operate in the flesh versus those of us who have a spiritual outlook on things. And again, if that applies, then now you have been tapped into the understanding of kings. Hey, this is why Yahweh Shai framed the ministry as the kingdom of heaven. Remember, when you read Matthew, the 10th chapter, he sent forth his disciples with explicit instructions, and those instructions was what? Preach that the kingdom was at hand. And basically, they was continuing in the legacy of Yahweh Shai, and the ministry that's before you is a reflection of that very ministry as well. So basically, this understanding, being able to wrap your mind around this concept, it places you in great company with Yahweh Shai himself. Now, obviously, we are nowhere on that level, but basically, we're in the company, we're in the presence of Yahweh Shai. If your interest is piqued by prophecy, well, this means that you're in the same hearing as Yahweh Shai. You see, seeing that prophecy emanates from his testimony. And this is why Yahweh Shai made the statement, while I am, my servants will be there also. Matter of fact, let me real quick begin right here. In the book of Matthew. Matthew, the 9th chapter. And where is that? Yep, Matthew 9 and 35. And it reads, and Yahweh Shai went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom. Let's read this again. And Yahweh Shai went about all the cities and villages. And if you viewing this through spiritual lenses, which you are called to do, right, then you can see what this is actually a foreshadowing of what we do. When we push this word, we're actually going about the cities and villages. Now, physically, we're not descending upon your city, but through this vessel, the unicorn, the internet, which is biblical, we're able to enter into your villages and your cities. See? Again, it says, and Yahweh Shai went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom. See? And healing every sickness and every disease among the people. In which we do that as well in the spirit. When this word go forth, it heals you. It serves as a healing agent. That ointment, see? What's that, St. John 15? Ye are now clean through the word that I speak unto you. But again, what's the point here? Yahweh Shai himself went about all the cities and villages and through the synagogues, preaching what? The gospel of the kingdom. Let's click on this word kingdom real quick. I mean, we done went into this word countless of times.
Strong's G 932. Basileia. Basileia.
Yeah, so it says royal power, kingship, dominion, and rule. See? So this is what Yahweh Shah was teaching. And really, when you go into it, he was forwarding the very sentiment from Isaac. When you go into the humble beginnings, what did that spirit I said Yahweh Shah, which is Isaac. But what did Isaac bestow upon his sons? Blessings in relation to what? Rulership. See? He gave Esau a consolation. He consoled Esau by giving him the fatness of the earth, which we are right in the midst of. But he ultimately comforted Jacob by giving him dominion and power, a perpetual rule. You see? So Yahweh Shah, when Yahweh Shah came on the scene, he was basically forwarding that very message. The kingdom of heaven has everything to do with royal power, kingship, dominion, and rule. See? The scroll down here says a kingdom, the territory subject to the rule of a king, in which that word territory emanates from terrain, which means right here on the earth. See? So you have the heavens, right? You have levels of heaven. You have the heaven of heavens, where the Most High dwell, the high archangels, beginning at Yahweh Shah. Then you have the heavenly bodies, the heavenly places that's over us physically, but then you have the kingdom of heaven, which deals with those who are in power. And again, this was Yahweh Shah was teaching. See? And this is what we teach. In the kingdom of heaven, which will be a rigorous rule, it basically comes at the expense of the removal of the current leaders. And guess what? That's not pleasing on the ears of the powers that be. In fact, that's an alarming report. And you see what ultimately is going to provoke this devil to come down with great wrath. Because you have to go into sensitive details. We have to basically give a vivid illustration of the fall of this kingdom. See? Hey, that's how you know that these so-called pastors and preachers up in these churches, and even among certain Israelite groups, they're not coming in that spirit. They don't echo the sentiment of Yahweh Shah. Remember, when you read Philippians, the 2nd chapter, it tells you that you should let the same mind be in you that was in Hamashiach. Also, 1 Corinthians, the 2nd chapter, we have the mind of Yahweh Shah. And again, we see what's the mind of Yahweh Shah. Let's go back here. Matthew 9:35. And Yahweh Shah went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and preaching what? The gospel of the kingdom. So that mind have to be in you. We have to radiate that same energy, if you will, into the earth. And if you're not in that spirit, within that harmonious arrangement, if you will, then you wasn't sent by Yahweh Shah. Because again, you got a lot of people who teach a world-friendly concept. It's pleasing on the ears. But when you really teach the gospel of the kingdom, you have to go there, man. You basically, again, have to go into a vivid illustration of the rigorous rule of the kingdom. We're going to have the nations under our subjection. We're going to be the HNIC, the head nation in charge. See? And again, that's not pleasing on the ears. And in order for you to expound on those things, you have to basically condemn this current system. This is what comes with the kingdom. Matter of fact, what's that? The book of Acts. We're going to get into the subject matter. But this is the book of Acts, the 20th chapter. I believe it's around Yep, this is Acts 20, and beginning at the 25th verse, and these are the words of the Apostle Paul, which he was taught hand in hand from Yahushua. So the Apostle Paul serves as a representation of this very ministry that's before you, if you can receive it. If you can't, then, hey, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe you shouldn't be here. See? Matter of fact, let me get some real quick come to mind. Is that, let me see. Hold up. I believe that's 1 Corinthians. Yep. It's 1 Corinthians 11:1. It says, be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Hamashiach. Be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Hamashiach. And again, these are the words of the Apostle Paul. So he's encouraging you to follow him. Why? Because he's following Yahushua. See? And again, this is the same mission we have been delegated to. We're in pursuit of Yahushua. So if you're looking for Yahushua, then it's best to follow the order in which he set up. Matter of fact, let's further prove that. That's the book of Psalms, the 37th chapter, in the 37th verse. It says, mark the perfect man and behold the upright, for the end of that man is peace. Let's read this again. It says, mark the perfect man and behold the upright. So you're encouraged to mark the perfect man and behold, right? Which goes into setting your eyes on. And there's no coincidence the ministry is centered around what? A visual. That's why basically we was ordered to publish the gospel and conceal not. And for those of you brothers out there that teach this word, you can attest to the fact that before you upload the video, the last stage is what? Publish. So the scriptures is heavy, man. It basically serves as a narration to life and existence. But again, the Lord said, look, behold a perfect man. And that perfect man is dealing with one who have perfect understanding, because it's levels to perfection. We haven't achieved being perfect in the flesh. No one of us, not one of us, no one can make the claim that they're perfect in the flesh. See, the perfect man is dealing with the one who the Lord himself assigned to pushing his word, who entrusted with his word, this precious word. That's why the scripture says your eyes shall what? Behold your teachers, or some along those lines. See, it says, mark the perfect man and behold, see, the upright, for the end of that man is peace. See that? So that's why the Apostle Paul said, look, be ye followers of me, because I'm following Yahushua. See that? So with that established, let's go back here to Acts. The 20th chapter, and beginning at the 25th verse, and it reads, and now behold, I know that ye all, Salakia, it says, and now behold, I know that ye all, among whom I have gone preaching the kingdom of the Most High. See? So the Apostle Paul is following what Yahushua did. We just read that, the account in Matthew, the 9th chapter, where Yahushua went forth throughout all the villages and cities, doing what? Preaching the kingdom of the Most High. So you see what the follower of Yahushua, being Paul in this case, is following suit. See, it says, and now behold, I know that ye all among whom I have gone preaching the kingdom of the Most High shall see my face no more. And that's going to also apply to this time, because it's going to be a moment in time where we're not going to be teaching his word. Hence the famine of the word. See? Again, it says, among whom I have gone preaching the kingdom of the Most High shall see my face no more. Wherefore, I take you to record this day that I am pure from the blood of all men. Let's read this again. It says, wherefore I take you to recall this day that I am pure from the blood of all men. And why would he be pure from the blood of all men? Well, let's continue. It says, for I have not shunned to declare unto you the counsel of the Most High. See that? So the kingdom of heaven is not a world-friendly doctrine. It really comes with warning you. That's why he said, look, I take to record this day that I'm pure from the blood of all men. And what made him pure from your blood? Because he didn't shun to declare the entire counsel, all the counsel of the Most High, which comes with what? Mourning, lamentations, and woe. It comes with pretty much being the bearers of bad news, a harbinger, if you will. Basically, we are set up to forward the evils. Somebody got to do it. Somebody have to basically promote the plagues. That's a lesson. See that? In which the Apostle Paul was assigned to that very thing. So he said, look, I'm pure from the blood of all men, because when you read, for an example, Ezekiel, matter of fact, let's get that, Ezekiel, the 3rd chapter. Basically, this is what the Apostle Paul is echoing. Ezekiel 3, and starting at the 17th verse. It says, son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. So Ezekiel was made a watchman, as all the prophets, you see? And in that, you're following Yahushua. Because remember, again, Yahushua went forth preaching the kingdom, and we read where the Apostle Paul followed suit. But it gave you more of a glimpse into the responsibility which was laid at the foot of the Apostle Paul. Him teaching the kingdom was basically him warning as well. That's why he said, look, I haven't shunned to declare the whole gospel. And in doing so, now I'm free from your blood. And you're going to see where that links up to what we're reading right here. Again, it says, son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore, hear the word in my mouth and give them warning from me. See, so basically we warning you from the Most High. We're actually pitching, right? If you're not familiar with that term, you know, you might have let's say you might have a venue or an NBA game or NFL or sports event, right? You might have someone outside of that venue selling tickets. And in that event, they'll be referred to as pitching. They pitching. See? They'll say, hey, look, tickets for sale. So basically, we saying we got armor for sale. We got armor, which would hedge you from the evils and overall protect you from the Most High. See? Let's read this again. It says, son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore, hear the word at my mouth and give them warning from me. See? Verse 18, it says, when I say unto the wicked, thou shalt surely die, and thou givest him not warning, nor speaketh to warn the wicked from his wicked way, to save his life. Now, this wicked right here is not dealing with Esau. That's dealing with the wicked amongst our people. Because we know Esau can't be reformed. He's the only nation that will not receive the mercy of the Most High. See? So this wicked right here is dealing with our people. See, again, it says, when I say unto the wicked, thou shalt surely die, and thou givest him not warning, right? So you got men out there who have the doctrine, but they're not warning. See? And that's a capital offense. How do we know that? Let's read on. It says, nor speakest to warn the wicked from his wicked way to save his life, the same wicked man shall die, right? So the Lord said he's going to die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at thine hand. See? So that's why the Apostle Paul said, well, I'm free from the blood of all men. Why? Because I haven't shunned to declare the entire gospel. See? Let's read the 19th verse. It says, yet if thou warn the wicked, and he turn not from his wickedness, and that's what we do. We warn Jake, but they don't repent. It says, nor from his wicked way, he shall die in his iniquity, but thou hast delivered thy soul. See that? So ultimately, what we just read, and even in the book of Acts, the 20th chapter, it gives you a glimpse into the sense of urgency that comes with preaching the kingdom of heaven, man. See? It's not some world-friendly concept, which a lot of you men, you err in taking that approach. But as for us, right, beginning with the leadership here at Great Millstone, the apostles, you know, the elders and those who move in that same spirit, as well as you believers, well, we have been brought into the fear of the Most High. See? And we understand the magnitude of this moment and the hidden dangers, if you will, that comes with this word going forth. And this is the burden, right? Let's see what the title of this lesson again. The burden of Babylon, which the prophets did see. We have been burdened with being given a glimpse into the evils that the Lord had prepared for America. See? So this thing is nothing to take light. This is very serious business and would be considered a solemn assembly, if you will. And for everything that's taking place here on the planet Earth, which I got a few articles, you know what? Before I go there, let me get this real quick. Yeah, because there's a lot happening in the earth, and we understand, you know, the Wadi Habashim Shah for giving us the instincts, heightening our spiritual antennas, if you will. We understand there's nothing coincidental or random. Everything is calculated. For everything that's taking place here on the planet Earth, from the movers and shakers, the different players, the kings of the earth, even down to the scenarios, is very detailed. This is a heavy power we're dealing with, man. See? And the Lord have brought us into this arena to give us a glimpse into his plans. See that? So for everything that's taking place, especially as it relates to America, because really all the drama centers around America. It ties either directly or indirectly in some capacity to Babylon the Great. See that? Well, again, I got a little information I want to bring forth to show you that the Lord is moving, man, and making good on his promise. But again, before we go there, let me grab this right here in the book of Jeremiah 28:8. It says, the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old. And who can you also lump in this category? Yahweh Shai, because Yahweh Shai is actually the prophet. See? That's why his testimony is the spirit of prophecy. Yahweh Shai even prophesied about America being destroyed, if you have eyes to see, when he made the statement, the grass that is cut down and thrown into the oven tomorrow. He was hinting at the destruction of America, man. See? He prophesied 70 AD. I believe that's Luke, the 19th chapter. And overall, everything prophecy, it comes from Yahweh, because this book in which the spirit of prophecy lingers through, it captures the essence of Yahweh. Remember when you read Psalms, the 40th chapter, it tells you how Yahweh come in the volume of the book. And that was actually reiterated in Hebrews, the 10th chapter. See? So Yahweh is the ultimate prophet. Again, it says, the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms. And you could throw Babylon the Great in there. And really, Babylon the Great is the featured kingdom. How do we know this? Because after this place is overthrown, there ain't going to be no more prophesying. See, we're going to rest on our beds in the kingdom of heaven. And in that, we're going to basically we're going to execute the laws in the earth. It tells you that in Isaiah, the 2nd chapter. So the build up in relation to prophecy, it all boils down to this moment in time. See? Oh, the key word there is before. So this is dealing with after the fact. See that? Again, the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and great kingdoms of war, right? And you can check that off the list because we prophesy war, man. Unlike these other groups, we're not even going to mention Christianity. And a lot of you other groups, you are nothing more than a Christian fashion with a Israelite twist. See? But the true prophet is going to roll up their sleeves, get their hands dirty, go out on the front lines and promote war. And this places us in good company. See, again, it says of war and of evil and of pestilence. See that? Now, with that, as promised, let me pull this up. Psychosporia outbreaks start with human contamination nobody has ever been able to figure out. So I was looking at this a little early, and it was a pressure point I wanted to go to. Well, actually, let's see. Yep, that's what I'm looking for right here. So these the states where this outbreak is taking place, and that's 45 of the 50 states. See? So now when you read into this, it says, these are cases that were acquired in the U.S. rather than from travel abroad, which makes this year wet unusual. And basically, we're in a time where you'll be hard pressed to push back on prophecy. You know, that was a time, if you go back far enough, you know, guys had somewhat of a leg to stand on. You know, they're basically come up against, you know, certain things that we taught. But now you'll be hard pressed to see someone, you know, really the scoffers and scorners have been reduced to just an echo from afar in a sense, because there's no substance, there's nothing, it's void. They're empty, an empty wagon at this point, man. Why? Because the Lord is co-signing us. See? Just as he did with all the prophets of old. As we speak, the Lord is complimenting our words. Matter of fact, what's that? Let me get a quick precept. That's 1 Samuel, the 16th chapter. No, that's not it. Well, you know what? I'll go ahead and read this one. It says, and Samuel did that which the Lord spake, and came to Bethlehem, and the elders of the town trembled at his coming, and said, comest thou peaceably? So Samuel, that proves right there that Samuel was in that stead of what? Teaching evil, war, and pestilence. Because when he came into the city, the elders, they trembled. Say, look, are you coming peaceably? Since I got that one, let me grab this real quick. First Kings 22. Yep, 22 and starting at the 7th verse. And this just gives you a glimpse into the nature of the prophets, the true nature of the prophets, the men of the Lord and their veracity. When you go into that word veracity, it pretty much means truth in its truest sense. So it says, and Jehoshaphat said, is there not here a prophet? Is there not here a prophet of the Lord besides that we might inquire of him? So this king was making a petition. Look, is there a prophet of the Lord that we can inquire of? So let's see what the response was. And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, there is yet one man, Micah, the son of Imlah, by whom we may inquire of the Lord. But I hate him. So he said he hate this prophet. Why? It says, for he doeth not prophesy good concerning me, but evil. See? And Jehoshaphat said, let not the king say so. So he said, look, I hate this prophet because he only prophesied evil, man. And especially towards me. So this gives you a glimpse into the true nature of the prophets. We're not here with an optimistic message. We're here to tell you straight up and down that Yahweh Shema Shai is making his move on America, Babylon the Great, and the inhabitants thereof. And if you're an Israelite, you better return, you better repent, or you're going to get caught up out there. You see? That's it. So, let me see. I believe that's what I was looking for earlier. I believe that's in 1 Samuel. Let me see real quick. Give me a second. Yeah, it's right here in the 3rd verse. I mean, the 3rd chapter. But it's down in the 19th verse. All right, so it says, and Samuel grew, which we just read, Samuel was a prophet, and the Lord was with him, and did let none of his words fall to the ground. See? And did not let none of his words fall to the ground. So that's proof right there. If you're on the fence, which at this point, if you on the fence, there's a good chance you're going to be destroyed, man. See, because the Lord is hastening. You got to remember, the earth is whipping faster. The days are being hastened. So the Lord is speeding this thing up. So if you still in that gray area, have not been fully persuaded, then again, you might be numbered to the sword. See that? Why? Because ultimately, the Lord is proving who he with, man. Because as we teach, the Lord is complementing what we say with these things that's taking place in the earth. See, so when you go back here to this article, And remember, we just read in Jeremiah, the 28th chapter, where the prophets of old, before me and before thee of old, and even to this very moment, prophesied of what? War, evils, and pestilence. So there's no coincidence. Right now, in real time, this is what's taking place on the soils of America, Babylon the Great. It says typically we only see 2,000 to 4,000 a year. So this is a pretty big spike. See, said Dr. Keith Snyder, a professor of food safety and the University of Florida generally. About 1 in 5 is acquired during international travel. It was some, let me see. Okay, yep. It says we've not seen anything like this. See? It says typically the U.S. might investigate 1 or 2 outbreaks of cyclosporasis each year. I think we looking at an unusual year with multiple outbreaks happening at the same time. So what I really wanted to again highlight was the broadness of this. See, it's not just in one certain pocket or one region. This is a international thing, which we know that more than likely the left hand is at work, right? But that left hand belongs to the Most High. So Yahweh from outside is instigating these things. See? Okay, now this is not what I want. Okay, yep, right here. You got the Bourbon disease. It says, what is Bourbon disease? All about the rare illness with no cure diagnosed on Long Island. It said, for the first time, Bourbon virus have been confirmed in New York. The disease, which has only ever been confirmed 6 times, sent a 67-year-old Suffolk County man to the hospital and has killed 2 others. Experts say there are likely more cases of the tick-borne virus that haven't been identified. So we're in evil times, man. Hey, but the scriptures tell you in Psalms, I believe that's Psalm 91, that no pestilence shall come near thy dwelling. So if you're in this arena, that means you are housed by the Most High. But the clause is to continue. You got to continue to believe. Else, you're going to be vulnerable. Because it's going down outside of these walls, if you will. And as promised, the Lord said he would send pestilence and plagues, as he did before. What's that in the book of 2nd Ezra? Matter of fact, let's get that real quick. 2nd Ezra, 15th chapter. This 2nd Ezra 15. Yep, 2nd Ezra 15 and 11. Starting at the 11th verse, it says, but I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm and smite Egypt with plagues as before. See, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof. So we know that Egypt, which was the captivity of our people under Pharaoh. That already happened. So now we will be in the land of our captivity once more, in which the scriptures refer to as spiritual Egypt, and that's America. So the Lord said, "You're going to smite this place as He smite Egypt." And what was one of the ways He smote Egypt? Let's go to, I believe that's the book of Exodus, the 9th chapter. Yep, this is Exodus 9. And this goes into all the different plagues in which the Lord sent to ancient Egypt. So now the Lord have set up a next scene, if you will, in the form of America, which is, again, referred to as spiritual Egypt. So we just read where the Lord said, look, I'm going to smite Egypt as I smote Egypt before. And how did He smite Egypt? Well, yep, right here, Exodus 9 and 15. It said, for now, I will stretch out mine hand that I may smite thee and the people with pestilence, and thou shalt be cut off from the earth. So the Lord, and again, this is dealing with the plagues they sent on Egypt, right? Matter of fact, for a little context, I'm going to read the 12th verse. It says, and the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had spoken unto Moses. And the Lord said unto Moses, rise up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh, and say unto him, thus said the Lord power of the Hebrews. That's a cut on all of you out there who promote this concept that the Lord had a change of heart, or he loved all the nations. It says, let my people go, see, that they may serve me. And this is happening again. The Lord is actually saying, let my people go again. And how is this on display? The fact that we woke up to being Israelites. That was the Lord channeling that energy in the earth, saying, look, let my people go. See, the Lord didn't have to thunder through a cloud and speak from the heavens. No, the mere fact that we woke up to being Israelites, that was the Lord saying, now let my people go. Right? As long as they were saying they was coloreds and blacks and Negroes and Hispanics and Latinos, you had them. But when that remnant awoke and said, look, we Israelites, that was Esau, or the modern day Pharaoh, cue to let us go. But did he let us go? No. He continued in his campaign to basically keep us in further derision. So we see here, this is dealing with ancient Egypt. So let's read the 15th verse. Matter of fact, let's read the 14th verse. It says, for I will at this time send all my plagues, see, upon thine heart and upon thy servants and upon thy people, that thou mayest know that there is none like me in all the earth. So that power is running that play back. So we see all these different diseases and pestilence. Why? Because the Lord have sprung back into action concerning his people. But here in this lifetime, it will be the elect in whom the Lord will remember and spring into action on our behalf. So now, back in the 15th verse, it says, for now I will stretch out mine hand that I may smite thee and thy people with pestilence. See? And thou shalt be cut off from the earth. Let's look at this word pestilence. Yeah, and the Hebrew word here will be the bar. It says pestilence, plague, murrain, which that word murrain, it goes into like livestock being affected. Some matter of fact, you know what? Let me see here, just to make sure. Yep, it says, let me pull this up.
Murrin.
Murrin. It says murrin is an old general word, infectious livestock diseases. Now, the whole catch with that is people are known as cattle and livestock as well. See, it says cattle disease, cattle plague. See? So then the Lord sent plagues upon the cattle, as he's doing now, but ultimately the cattle represents people as well. Matter of fact, you know what? Let's prove that. Because even when you read in 2nd Ezra 15, which we're going to go back there, matter of fact, let's just get that. That's an example of that. Back in 2nd Ezra 15, it says, behold, my people are led as a flock, see, to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell where? In the land of Egypt. See? So when the Lord said he would send pestilence, which is pretty much a plague for cattle, that represents the people as well. Matter of fact, let's further prove that. The book of Ezekiel, the 34th chapter. This is Ezekiel 34. Yep. This is Ezekiel 34 and 20. It says, therefore, thus saith the Lord power unto them, behold, I, even I, will judge between the fat cattle and between the lean cattle. See? Now, is that talking about literal cattle? Well, let's read on. It says, because ye have thrust with side, Slakia, because ye have thrust with side and with shoulder, and pushed all the diseased with your horns, till I have scattered them abroad. Therefore will I save my flock. See? And they shall no more be a prey, and I will judge between cattle and cattle. See? And I will set up one shepherd over them, and he shall feed them, even my servant David. He shall feed them, and he shall be their shepherd. See that? So you see what cattle represents people. Even the elites refer to you people as goyim and cattle. See? The scripture speaks about how the wicked is cruel to his beasts. That's dealing with you people, man. See that? So now let's go back here again. Yep, you got this born bourbon disease. It says, I mean, I don't have to read into this, right? The point is basically to highlight, again, we the bearers of bad news. This is our job. This is the job description, to forward what? Evils, war, and pestilence, as we read in Jeremiah, the 28th chapter. This is some of the symptoms: headaches, fatigue, weakness, nausea, vomiting, muscle and joint pain, loss of appetite, rashes. That happened in ancient Egypt as well, because the Lord said he would plague, they was called boils, that the Lord affected those Egyptians with, man. See? So now, let's see here. Okay. Like I said, a few tabs, and we're ready to close up. It says millions of Americans brace for potential water and power cuts as two crucial U.S. reservoirs plunge to historic lows. And these are the words that should catch your attention, as we saw in the other article where it said it was unusual, right? Historic lows. You see that word spike being thrown around. that should give you a glimpse into the fact that this is from on high. This is Yahweh Shema Hawashai working. See? And this is also a plague that went back into ancient Egypt as well. I want to say that's Exodus, I believe that's Exodus, the 10th chapter. We'll get that one as well. It says millions of Americans are being warned that they could face future water shortages and even power problems as a vital system edges closer to breaking points. So it's not going to get any better. See? And if you ain't in the right spirit, this is going to weigh on you. You're going to get tired of this. Right? Tired of hearing, hey, because the scriptures say you have now entered into really the house of mourning. So you have to brace for the mournings, lamentations, and woe. Or what's that? Ezekiel, the 2nd chapter in the 10th verse. So it says the drop has since been raising fears over supplies for homes, farms, and electricity generation. This is a pretty big read. Yeah, so basically you got these reservoirs, they're being compromised. I was trying to find, was it this one? Maybe as a, you know what, let me try right here. A sweeping cyber attack on water systems in multiple states. No, that's not the one. Yeah, I believe it was this one. I believe it was a number they threw out there, like 40 million. Oh, that's it. Yep. Together, they provide water for around 40 million people. See? Irrigate more than 5 million acres of farmland and generate enough power for 700,000 homes across several states. So that's a domino right there. Slacky, let me click back right here. Let me see if it pulled up. Okay. Now, let me read this again. It says, together they provide water for around 40 million people, irrigate more than 5 million acres of farmland, and generate enough power for 700,000 homes against the states. Across several states. It says, but both are running dangerously low after years of drought, soaring demand, and increasingly hot, dry weather reported. See? So power outages comes along with the evil titans as well. And again, that actually happened in ancient Egypt as well. Let's get that. In the book of Exodus, the 10th chapter, I believe it's around the 20th. Yep. Oh, you see the heading right here, darkness over the land. So that happened in Egypt, and it's going to happen in spiritual Egypt. We're not just saying that. We showing you the pulse here in America through these different articles, which we just featured 2 articles going into shortages of water as well as power. See? It says, and the Lord said unto Moses, stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt. See, even darkness which may be felt. See that? It says, and Moses stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. See? They saw not one another, neither rose any from his place for 3 days, but all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. So you can expect to see that here in spiritual Egypt. Or the scripture tell you how then you're going to know who am I chosen. So it's going to be moments where it's going to be blackouts, but the elect going to have light, man. See? So let's go back here to 2nd Ezra 15 and verse 12. It says, Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that Yahweh shall bring upon it. See? And again, that's the burden that we have been given to report. See that? It says, they that till the ground shall mourn, for their seed shall fail through the blasting in hell, and with a fearful consolation, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. So we're in a time where the evils is coming, and they have really begun to settle and take root here in America. But as we know, it's going to only intensify. See? It says, and one people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hands. Because you're going to have shortages. It's going to invoke seditions. See? Because right now, we're in a place where people somewhat respect their boundaries. You know, that's the neighbor's house. But it's going to get to a point where they're going to trespass those boundaries. See? And it's going to be mainly due to the lack of resources, bread, water. It says, for there shall be sedition, see, among men, and invade one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. They're not going to care about the authorities. See, it says, in the course of their actions shall stand in their power. So the Lord is going to actually give license to these people to just wreak havoc. And you're going to see why America is known as Babylon the Great and the Valley of the Shadow of Death, the land of great confusion and death. You're going to see why it was coined that way, because ultimately we're going to go into those times where all hell is going to break loose. Verse 17, it says, and men shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. Yeah, because you're going to have smart cities set up, 15-minute cities. And if you off the grid, then that's you. See, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. You're going to have checkpoints. You're going to have travel restrictions. It says, for because of their pride. See, and that's one of those buzzwords that link America to these plagues. See, it says, for because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled. See, a time of great trouble. And that word city shall jump out as well, because America is compiled of mostly cities. There's more cities here than provinces or states. See, it says, for because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled. The houses shall be destroyed. See, and men shall be afraid. So we coming into a time where you people are going to be frozen with fear, man. Once Yahweh Shai officially make his presence felt in his perfection, because the Lord already making his presence felt. Beginning with the prophets coming out, the seals being loosed, and the report going forth. See, it says, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread. See, and for what? Great tribulation, which that word tribulation goes back to trouble. See? So we're in some heavy times, man. We're in a time where Yahweh Shai is making good on his promises and pretty much the death threats which are recorded within the scriptures, in which the Lord gave us eyes to see. We can see that burden, man. And being watchmen, oh, remember we read that in Ezekiel the 3rd chapter. Being watchmen is our duty to convey that, to report that. And we understand only a remnant is going to heed, adhere to that warning. And in that event, you're going to look for cover. And guess what? What's that cover? Oh, and that's a spiritual word. Cover, you look for cover. That goes back to covered or a covering, which goes back to a roof. So what's that cover? That cover. See, coming into this realm where the entry point is your reasoning. And you believe on that report wholeheartedly, so much so to where you walk a certain walk. See? It invokes that healthy fear of the Most High. And that's what Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai want to see. And if that applies, then guess what? We all in good company, man. But again, I must say in closing, and again, you have to continue. Don't lose your ticket on the chariot. So yeah, with that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak, Wadash. Double honors to the head apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the fellow laborers out there, and as always, you believe it. To the next time, shalom.